We're talking about stress, which I think I'm an expert at having it, not necessarily dealing with it, but at having it. But hopefully I've learned a bit about dealing with it too. And a lot of what I've learned about dealing with it comes through my physics and engineering. So it's a different perspective than you probably hear most of the time. And last week we talked about stress and strain and pressure and the fact that stress isn't the problem, strain is. And strain is when there's too much stress. But really stress is a normal part of life. We wouldn't be living if we didn't have stresses because that's just part of, interaction of things and moving our muscles and everything else. So stress isn't the problem, strain is. And stress is the response to pressures, which are force per area. So that's a very short summary of some of the things we talked about. And you can see some of the things on the video from the previous week if you want. But this week we're going to be talking about dealing with external pressures or direct pressures. So coming from a specific source or thing. And there's some physics around that too that we will go into. So I'm going to first go ahead and show you a slide and we'll get started. Type 1 stresses and what to do about them. Strategies to deal with direct demands. That's what we're talking about. So like I say, what I start with is I talked before, don't get hung up on the physics and get stressed out about that. We're going to be talking about the physics of it because we are all in this world and we follow the same laws of nature that the rest of the planet does, and so that's the kind of the lens we're looking through all this. So not all stresses affect us the same way. There's 3 types that we'll be talking about: tensile stress, compressive stress, and shear stress. Today we'll be really focusing on the first 2, not the third one, but we'll deal with that sometime later. And so there's 3 types, and there's also different ways that they're applied. So first, just some definitions. Stress on a material is produced by the pull of forces tending to cause extension. And it's a combination of forces that are exerted, and then the material resists that motion. And compression is kind of the same thing, but in the opposite direction. It means pressing things together into less space. So resistance then is a force that opposes the motion. And I'm going to actually show you what I mean by that. So I'm showing the physics because if you think about the physical stuff, when you'll see it around you in the world, and it'll help you understand things. That has happened all the time with me. I'm just going to show you a rubber band. It's kind of interesting that if you stretch the rubber band, as I stretch it, it gets thinner. Do you notice that? It's thick, but as you stretch it, it gets thinner. And if I take a piece of cheese, and I don't think it's showing up very well, but if I take a piece of cheese and I squeeze it, it gets fatter. That's what tension and compression are. So if you think about that in terms of what we deal with, and you can go ahead and speak up right now because we'll discuss this a little bit, is tension and compression. I mean, you recognize feeling that in your body, in your spirit, really, from just the pressures being compressed, being things pushing in on you. Do you recognize that as that's the physics of it, but do you recognize that for you as a person? Basically, there's a place that is, there's a force coming from something. If you think about that, when we're being pulled in different directions, where is that force coming from? Or when I'm being pressed by something, where is that coming from? There's some source of it. And so when we look at it, that directly, we can deal with it in a very direct way. Okay? This is the way you feel like sometimes, right? Like being pulled in all kinds of different directions, and the end result can be that nothing is happening. You're just terribly stressed out. But there's no motion, so this is not the way we want to be dealing with it. We wanted to have something a lot better than that. Okay, So I'm actually going to show you. So first of all, I just want to make sure that this, correlation makes sense to everybody, that we, when we have a force, it really is coming from somewhere. And so I'm going to show you a demo that really kind of hones in the relationship with. We're using physical movement as an explanation for metaphysical or other than physical movement. So in this case, we've got a current state, and we want to get to an ideal state. We've got a position, and we've got another position, and we want to create movement. So for instance, you want better health, and this is the way you are right now, and this is where you want to get to. You want different income. This is where you are, this is where you want to get to. You want a different relationship. This is where you are, this is where you want to get to, etc. The question is, how do we get moving? If we're in the current state. Well, the way we get moving is through force. So Ian is the person that is applying pressure to me, and he's getting me to move in this direction. And if he does it well, eventually, him and the other sum of the forces will hopefully get me there. Now, what if he pushes me a little bit harder, a little bit faster? I'm going to get there faster. Well, that's cool. But what if I think that's too much? I could resist. Push me hard. Now, the more hard he pushes, the more I resist, and the more struggle we have between us, right? But I move, but that's not necessarily our favorite way to do it. So the magnitude of the force is one thing we can play with. The other one is the direction. Now, I said that that's my ideal state. Generally, as we get closer, we get clearer on where we really want to get to. And I may decide now that I want to go over there, but he still thinks I want to go here. So I'm trying to go this way, and he starts pushing me. And there's stress there too, because he has to exert more force, and I'm resisting, so it doesn't work very well. So the thing is, how can we make the forces get us to where we want to get to with as little stress as possible? I want to talk about really the correlations between the physical and the, what we experience in our life, about the demands that we have, and the forces that are affecting us. I mean, have anybody ever tried to force somebody to do something? People,
no.
Huh? Never? Never. It's not a bad thing. I don't know about you, but there's been many times when I'm resisting, and then I stop and I go, I don't even know why I'm resisting. I want to go there. And this is where I got some of the distinctions. It's like, okay, if what I want to do is, get this job, say, but I don't, I'm not doing it. Having somebody push me to do it is a good thing. But I resist anyway because I don't want to be told what to do. Right? We all do that. We don't want to be told what to do. But the thing is, we do. So where do we get these kind of things? So there's a real difference in stress when when pressure is applied. It's the internal stress is the internal resistance to that pressure. So when I'm feeling pressed to do something, if somebody asks me to do something, hey, can you pass me the the remote? Somebody asks you to do that, it's no big deal, right? But if they say, can you pass me the remote, and you're thinking, well, why don't they get up and do it themselves? That's stressful, right? So we have some role in determining when something is stressful or not. But the external demands we have to deal with.